if you don't mind giving people like an introduction, who you are and what you do as well.
Absolutely. I am David Valjalo. I'm the creative portfolio strategist at TI. Sounds like some kind of extravagant title. I basically just try and figure out what we do with Lords, right? The IP, the games, where it goes next, where it is right now. It's a team effort. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, almost a couple of hundred now at CI. So we're all in it together. But yeah, I'm kind of helping steer the ship, one of many.
And have you been doing creative portfolio strategy for like a long time? Is that your background as well, or what's the
You know
history
what?
like?
Great question, Jacob. I'll try and give you like a short answer because it's a long story. I've been in games for about 20 years, 20 plus. I know I don't look old enough, but I've only ever been in games. So I started out like in a shop in Liverpool where I'm from, right? Just selling games over the counter when I was like 17, 18. Then I moved into QA, so that's testing games. Then I moved into journalism. I don't know if you remember magazines, so this print thing that you open up by hand. Um, so I worked on Edge magazine, which was like my dream job back in the day. I was there for about 3 years, traveling the world, meeting all my heroes. Right, got to meet the guy who invented Mario, and Shigeru Miyamoto. He came up with Zelda and all that good stuff. And then from there, I was a consultant for a few years. So I'd work on things like Call of Duty, Battlefield, all kinds of different things, a lot of sports games too. So when I started getting tatted when I was working on games out there in LA and Orlando. And then I moved into marketing. So I did creative marketing at Avalanche, and then at a company called Fatshark. We got to work on Warhammer, Dark Tides, all that fun, grungy rock stuff, which is right up my alley. And then, yeah, the portfolio bit that you were actually asking about, I did that for a couple of years before joining CI. I was at Tencent. I've been all over the place, kind of just figuring out creatively, what do we do with these games, right? And why, and what do people want, which is what this is all about, right? Giving
Yeah.
people what they want.
Yeah, dang, that's I love hearing people's backgrounds because there's
It's a life story.
so many different titles in gaming, and of course you've just traversed all these different titles yourself. I mean,
I zig and zag, right? And I'm a jack of all trades. That's what I love about games. If anyone's interested about getting into it, right? There's no one way to get in, and there's no one way to stay in. You can kind of bob and weave
yeah,
as you go, and just keep learning.
yeah. Well, when it comes to more about Lords itself, I didn't play the original,
Yeah.
so can you
Okay.
explain this game to me like I'm a casual?
Absolutely. So this game, I mean, you can think of it. We're talking about the 2023 game, right? Because there's one way before that,
Yeah,
which was, still part of our portfolio. But think about this one as like the best starting point, right? This is like a soft reboot. This is, like they did with Batman, where you end up with the Batman. This is like Lords of the Fallen, 2023, bit of a fresh start. Basically, it's about gods, demons, monsters, humanity stuck in the middle. And these two realms, we've got Axiom, which is, think about that as like the real world, our world. And then you've got Umbral, which is like this ghostly spiritual realm, almost the realm of the dead, right? Which has got all these creepy crawlies in there and bad guys. And our game really is about this character, you, the player, who has the power to traverse these two realms. You've got a lamp, which is kind of imbued with a little spiritual creature in there. And when you raise that lamp, you can move into the umbral realm and start messing around in the dark side, so to speak.
yeah. That was
That's the long and short of
because I know it's the
it.
mixing the living and the dead, and that concept is like it's a
Right,
sick concept. And then a
right.
lot of questions were around that lantern itself and
Yeah.
how that came to be the idea of traversing between the two realms.
Right. Well, like the teams obviously have been working on this for a long time, even before I joined, right? So Umbral was really birthed from just a workshop between our creatives. And I think the technology with UE5 had come along, and it was like we'd seen a few other games do that. And there were games like Soul Reaver back in the day, right, which were about the spiritual world too. And this idea of a device that allows you to move between worlds, which is something really appealing to us as players and creatives. It was like we haven't really seen any games do that. Can we be the first? Can we be the best? And I think the guys did a great job.
Yeah. You've been around, and there's so many Souls games out there too. It's a very competitive
Mm,
field. So
mhm,
why a
mhm.
Souls like action RPG?
It's a great question. I mean, I could tell you that the team love Souls-like games and ARPGs, right? Action adventure games of all variety. But the Souls-like was something that the team had built and developed experience in, right? The Lords of the Fallen that I mentioned before 2023, that was a nice little starting point, little test bed. And then we got good at them, if I do say so myself, with the 2023 game, right? And proved, okay, this is a good Souls-like. And to be clear, on our side at the developer, and we see ourselves as players as well, we think it's a good game, right? We're not under the illusion that this is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece yet. So we're on a journey. So it's about, and that's where I come in as a portfolio strategist, right? The strategy of let's start getting good at this one thing, right? Now, there's a lot to that as well, because as you said rightly, there's a lot of Souls-likes, and FromSoftware are the kings of Souls-likes. They invented the genre quite literally. So it's also about trying to get good at this one thing, but also become the best at a specific thing. So like, what can we do best? We think that that's Umbral. We think it's that Traversing Realms. There's plenty more besides that we're really good at. But as a kind of test bed and learning experience, that 2023 game really showed us our strengths and our weaknesses. So to your point, why Souls-likes? Because we think we've got a shot at becoming great at them. And we're on that journey, and we've got the community with us as well, right? So with the next game, we're hoping we go from very good to great. Don't quote me on that, but you can if you want.
No,
I'm being recorded.
I like the framing of a journey, right? You got to learn as you go,
Right.
and you don't got to strike
Exactly.
it hot right away. Like some of these things take years, if not decades, to compete with such big entities, right?
Exactly that, Jacob. Like I've been at a number of studios, worked on a number of projects in the past where the ambition setting out is like, okay, can we make the next Grand Theft Auto, right? Or can we make the next, Arkham Knight? And the answer actually is those studios, those incredible studios like Rocksteady and Rockstar, they didn't start with Grand Theft Auto necessarily, right? They iterated. They didn't start with it as we know it now, right? They didn't start with the third Arkham game in a trilogy. They had to start with Arkham Asylum, and then they did Arkham City, and then they did Arkham Knight. So it really is about that journey, and it's iterative. Like we can keep getting better until we are great, but you don't start great usually. Some people do, but they're the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah. And so when it comes to competing with a big dog like FromSoft, what is that like? Is that a common talking point in the office at all of like, hey, they're doing this, how can we not copy and paste, but
Absolutely.
how can we improve
Yeah.
upon? Or like you said, you're trying to focus on, in little areas of how can we do these
Yeah.
things better? So what is it like competing
I
with
think
a company like FromSoft?
what a question, God. How long have you got? I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to even think that we're competing with them, right? We're aware that we're in their shadow half the time. They make incredible games. They also make games that we'll learn and are quite different to the games that we make, right? We think Lords now, especially with the 2023 game and a 2.0 update that launched this weekend to, community applause at least. We think that's shown that actually we've got our own kind of secret sauce, our own little flavor here. We lean much more into kind of the heavy metal, grungier side of dark fantasy. We're a little bit more balls to the wall, a little bit more rock and roll, a little bit more fast and furious, both literally and creatively in terms of the gameplay. So we're a little bit, we're taking big swings, and I think the talking points in the office, the virtual office, right, so to speak, are that we all love FromSoft's games. We're under no illusion that we can make the same kind of game the same kind of way. We have to do it our way. And I think last time, a lot of the learnings were there are areas where we can't compete actually, and that's okay, right? So like, let's not compete and try and be better, or even sometimes as good in those areas. So, for example, I'd single out narrative storytelling and maybe map design as areas where FromSoft have just managed to bottle this lightning, and the problem is they keep bottling the same lightning, right? With all of their games, you're like, how have they done this again? Which is have this big sprawling interlinked map that kind of you get lost in, but still somehow makes sense, right? And I'd be the first to admit, with Lords 23, we tried, and you could argue failed a little bit in trying to replicate that because it's a really difficult thing to do. It was our first real meaty attempt at doing that, and I think a lot of the feedback speaks for itself, right? Where players were getting lost for the wrong reasons. Like there's a fine line between confusion and intrigue. I think we were occasionally on the wrong side of that. The storytelling and narrative ties into that as well. If those things aren't kind of clicking and those cogs aren't turning together, you end up with this like kind of friction, this confusion. We were on the wrong side of that. It's part of the reason with the 2.0 update on the weekend, we brought in lamp navigation. So now you hold the lamp up, you tap A, and you get a little lovely white butterfly trail of where to go next, like that is an open acknowledgement of actually half of us just didn't know where to go, right? So like, let's just fix that. Let's not try and do what FromSoft do all the time. Let's make it easy on ourselves and our players. And it seems to have gone down really well. So I hope that answers the question. We think about FromSoft a lot. We dream about making games as well as they do. But we're also now aware we've got our own flavor and people seem to like what we're selling. So
No, I think it was a good answer. I talked with the game director for Bungie a couple weeks ago, and so
right,
they're making an extraction shooter. So naturally,
of course,
you point towards Escape from Tarkov, right? That's their FromSoft, and he was like, "Hey man, like
right.
we like to think that we want to eat, but we're not going to take away from anyone else's meal. There's plenty of appetite to go around here." So I thought that was equally well said. Of like, yes, you can
Exactly.
be competing and you can be looking at your
Yeah,
competition, but it doesn't mean you're going to be taking away anything from them, right? You can both give equal praises.
exactly. And to that point, we're not trying to eat anyone's lunch, right? We're working in the same kind of genre. And think about it, one of my great passions is film. If we're making a heist film, yeah, obviously you're going to be compared to the greats of that genre, right? Like Heat. It doesn't mean that we're trying to make Heat, right? We can try and make the next good thing that people who like that movie like too, but we've got to be aware of who we are and bring our own personality, DNA as a studio to this project, right? We don't want to just copy what other people are doing all the time. We can be inspired though.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would say inspiration is a good word for it. But the
Mm.
biggest question people had, which I'm sure you guys have already talked about so many times, answered plenty of times, but why a revamp for this 2.0? A lot of people talking about it could have been so easy to ditch the project, come back a couple years later with something completely new at a full price. So why revamp for this 2.0?
It's a great question. We've got a great answer, right? Ryan on our marketing team, our charismatic marketing leader, he puts it like this. We had unfinished business, right? We put out a game at launch 2023 that we weren't happy with. Some people who bought it weren't happy with in terms of, quality, consistency. We had some technical issues at launch. We wanted to kind of, come back with the products that we feel our audience deserved, right? It's why we didn't charge an extra premium. It's why we kind of had a sale when we launched the 2.0 update last weekend. We wanted to say, look, we're players, we're gamers, we're part of the community we're building. We believe in this product. We believe we can get it right. We want to earn your trust right now with this game. We don't want to just move on and try and make a quick buck with the next one. We want to take our time. We want to cook. We want to get this right. We want to learn from this as well, right? We want to take all the learnings from 2.0, what people like, what they don't like, what can improve. We want to carry it forward into the next game. So we don't want to prematurely say, hey, we made some mistakes with the previous game. Will you now buy our next game? We want to say, hey, look, we're literally going to correct those mistakes. Now, do you want to come with us on this journey to the next game? We feel like that's the right way by the consumer to honor them and by ourselves to try and get good at this, right?
Yeah, I'm probably way over caffeinated, but the we had unfinished business line is just like it's a solid, like you said, solid from the marketing team over there.
Appreciate it.
But I think it's
That's what
also
they do best.
it's got to be a great way to build trust, and that's exactly what you're looking for as a studio is to build that long-term trust. And now people can always look back on
Yeah.
like, look what they did here. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty defining what they did here to the industry standard, I would say.
Yeah.
When it comes to that revamp, though, as a team, what was the most difficult part of that revamp?
It's a really good question because I put it like this. Here's another killer marketing line for you. We made it success by 1,000 cuts, right? The expression is death by 1,000 cuts, but we wanted to just improve all the little things, all the quality of life details that had held us back at launch, right? Because there were a lot of them. It wasn't just any one big thing like, oh, if you guys fix this, if you make Soul Flay one of the Umbrella abilities quicker, it'll be better. Some people said that. Some people felt equally a jump button was more important, right? Or navigation was more important, or combat didn't feel weighty enough, or the run stop wasn't strong enough. So all of these little things we actually took in equal measure, and we thought, okay, we need to fix all of them, not just one big thing. So honestly, it sounds like a non-answer, Jacob, but we really took everything as seriously as everything else because it's all important to different people for different reasons. So we just kind of had to take that approach and just take our time. And it's why 2.0 is really the culmination of 50 discrete updates over the past 18 months.
And okay, I was gonna say next, how long of a time period was that? Like you say, 18 months spent on this. Was there time
Yeah.
ahead of that where you knew that we were going into that revamp cycle?
I mean, look, nowadays you always launch knowing that you're gonna kind of lightly iterate or improve on a product, right? There may be bug fixes, there may be technical issues that come up that you don't expect, like we had. But you don't expect to have a prolonged period, like I just said, of 18 months, where you're going to continue to work on the game. We care so much about what the community think of our product, right? And we know that that's instrumental in earning and building that trust. That post-launch, we all sat down and we said, look, we need to get this right. We want to get this right in the long haul, not just short term. So let's commit to this. So it was a process really across those 18 months of month to month, just communication between the development team, the marketing team, the leadership team, everyone just pulling together and saying, yes, we're simultaneously, thinking about spinning up the next game, but let's dedicate and commit resources to fixing this right now. Because we felt, and I think a lot of people in the community felt, that it was broken. It sounds like a harsh word, but we admitted that. I was like, look, this is slightly broken, both in terms of design, creative, and technical polish. So like, let's fix this, and that takes time. So yeah, we didn't launch expecting to be doing this. Once we launched, we felt, almost an ethical compulsion to fix this for the people who turned up day one and maybe didn't get what they felt they paid for. So that's what we're trying to do.
Ethical
Do right by the
compulsion,
customer.
man. You're dropping some mad lines. I mean, on this fine morning, dude. the
You need
next
to do
one,
a remix, right? You need to chop it up.
the next one though is also the number 2 or number 1 most common was the free friends pass.
Right.
So where in the line did you guys decide, hey, if one of your buddies wants to buy this game and gifts you a version of it, we're gonna give you that for free. So tell me more about that.
I mean, look, co-op has always been a key pillar for us of the experience, right? And it again, it's one of those things that when we launched, it wasn't perfect, right? We wanted to make it perfect by this point with 2.0. The free friends pass idea was just coming from that place of, let's think about the community. How do we get more people to play our game, to enjoy it, to earn back some trust, right? There may be some people who are on the fence about Lords based on reputation, based on some of those early review scores. Because that's the thing, as you know, Jacob, like you launch and you get one review score, right? You get your Metacritic score and you don't get a retake usually on that, right? No media come back and start saying, hey, can we re-review your game? It feels like it's finished now. It's like, no, you're done. That's it. We all move on. Well, actually, we were like, look, we need to get people back in. How do we do that? And knowing that we've got a really core, passionate community of players who were there with us day one, think from the customer's perspective. Okay, I've got the game. It's really good now. I'm proud of it. I want to share it with someone. Rather than tell that person, okay, you need to now give this company more money. How about you just share your copy with them? Right? Like when you'd go around to a friend's house back in the day and you'd play co-op, or you'd bring your cartridge. I'm old enough to remember, right? You take your GoldenEye cartridge around to your friend's house with your controller, you're jamming on GoldenEye, right? It's that experience, like invite your friend into your living room, share this cool game that we're proud of now. And that's where the Friends Pass came from. And we can't deny, obviously, companies like Hazelight are doing pioneering work with Friends Passes, with games like Split Fiction, which I played through recently myself with a friend. It's just a great way to honor the customer, the consumer, the community, to say, hey, we want more of you to play this and experience it because we're proud of it. So let's share it. So it wasn't a hard decision, actually. It might seem like, oh man, you're leaving money on the table. You know what? That's okay sometimes, right? Because we want people to enjoy what we're making here.
And so, just for clarification too, I know there was not a lot of confusion, but some people were curious if they were trying to get into the game, what all does that free friends pass include? Because some companies will give you a free friends pass, but then it's like there's progression locked off, and you can only go so far. So, like, what does it all include?
Yeah, and this ties into kind of how difficult it was technically to pull off, right? The dev team did have to spend a lot of time figuring out how do we synchronize players together. So tying into that, in terms of what the Friends Pass offers, if your friend, say I've got the game, Jacob, and you don't, I say to you, go to Steam or the PSN store, download the Friends Pass version of Lords of the Fallen 2.0. It's on the store. That basically downloads the whole experience for you, right? But you can, on your own, you can play through the character creation menu, get your character set up, play through the tutorial so you know the ropes, you'll know how to play the game. And then as long as you've got a friend who's starting from the same place as you, or who's within one boss of you, You guys can invite each other. Well, your friend with the game, I can invite you to play with me, and then we can play through the whole thing together, right? The entire thing, start to finish, the full campaign. It's pretty great. It's pretty generous, I have to say.
Yeah, that's I just love that concept. I just it
Yeah.
was obviously received very well too, and like you said,
Right.
especially with a co-op, right? It's just like as long as you got a homie and maybe multiple homies, I
Yeah.
love that idea. So when seeing that, I was like,
Mhm.
that is such a genius. Whoever like who was the is there someone in the office that was the first person?
Look, we say everything's a team effort here, and I'd just say that the leadership team felt like it was the right generous offer to make to our audience and our core, because we have got a core fan base, right, who love Lords, and we want them to share it with people. I actually, honestly, I mean, we have to credit Hazelight, who made Split Fiction, Brothers Two Sons. They made a bunch of co-op games, and I think they've kind of pioneered that type of experience and pushing it out to fans. So yeah, we're kind of following in their footsteps, but they're good footsteps to follow in.
Yeah, and I think the more studios that do it, like more people are gonna be like, "Hey,
Right.
whoa, this is definitely a thing that we can work into our blend somehow."
Totally.
A few more questions from me, then we got some community questions
Yeah.
that will hopefully be a bit more fast fire for you. I appreciate
Uh-huh.
your lengthy answers, though. It's been good intel so far.
Really enjoying it.
I know you can't go through all 50 quality of life or minor updates you guys have all adjusted through this, but for people who are older or returning players, I'm sure a lot of them have already tried the game, but what has all been improved? Because a casual player who's trying it for the first time won't know the improvements that have been made. So what are some of the major changes that went down?
I'd say there's a few, and there's a few that I've already probably touched on, but I'll reiterate because I think they're that good, right? I think the lamp navigation system. I think when you hold that lamp up and you tap A or whatever the prompt is on whatever platform you're playing, and you see that white butterfly trail to the next vestige, right? I mean, that for me is a game changer, especially in parts of our map that are by design quite complicated, dense, confusing, right? Like the Forsaken Fen, places like that in our map. It's just a godsend to be able to get yourself out of trouble and find a way forward. I think improving the speed of the soul flay, which is one of our key core abilities, right? You get to, I mean, dig this, Jacob, if you want to sell this game to someone. I think ours is the only game where you can pull someone's soul out of their body, beat up the soul, and then have it return into the body of your enemy, and then kill the enemy. Right? It's a pretty great selling point. I'm sure we've all wanted to pull someone's soul out and beat it up. So I know I have. So I think speeding that up, that mechanic is a game changer as well. It just speeds everything up, right? And then overhauling the UI itself, so menus, button prompts, when you're in Umbral, how to use Umbral. We're just making everything more accessible for the player and quicker, so that when you get in there, you're not messing around, kind of fighting the controller or the inputs. You're just immersed fully in the game and the world.
Gotcha. There was another thing you guys pointed out, even in your release as well. There was now more masculine and more feminine character customization, which was directly requested by the community.
Right, it was, yeah. I mean, this all ties into that listening to the community and a customer, and kind of not only listening but then taking action. So, our CEO goes straight to X, goes straight to wherever he can find intel in our community and wherever they live, and asks. And I think it's such a simple thing to like ask, what do you guys want? Like we pick up on chatter in the community, right, around things like that, and then we ask and then we action. And honestly, for some reason, that seems to be like a pioneering thing right now, but we think it helps us make better games. And the community response speaks for itself, right? The engagement this past weekend as well with the game, both, online in the discourse and amongst the community, the stats, the player engagement, it's all speaking volumes for like we're onto something here.
Yeah, I mean, because my follow-up was going to be, speaking of the CEO, he had said that he wants to put the players first. And so my question to you is going to be, how exactly are you guys doing that? I know you already softly went into it, if you don't mind reiterating, though.
Yeah, players first means community focused. So I think things like asking our audience, what do you want? It doesn't mean it's the whole game's designed by committee, right? But we do want a kind of democratic approach to our community. Like, what do you guys want in terms of these decisions? Especially, right? Like if the community is expressing an opinion on something and it's picking up steam, it's getting strong, and we feel like it contributes to the immersion of the game, then we'll listen to that. We'll ask about that for a little bit more further information, and confirmation and validation, and then we'll take action and we'll address it. So that's really what Players First is all about. And we're also going to be looking at over the next few weeks, months, hopefully years, just building on the community of Lords and around Lords and at CI, and just kind of bringing people into the fold and sharing insights. We put a video series out over the weekend, I think, or last week, Lifting the Veil, which is me and Ryan, our marketing director, kind of just chewing the cud, talking about the journey to this point. And there's going to be more of that coming as well. So yeah, that's what Players First is for us. It's all about listen, look, action, do, right? Like, let's get this right with you guys.
Nice. And as a team, you guys released 2.0. And then shortly afterwards, you're seeing community feedback. I would say mostly very positive and receptive to everything you guys had announced, all of the updates, all of the improvements. You guys then get featured on Steam. I think it was the front page of Steam. You guys crack into the top 10 global sellers list on Steam. And your recent reviews go from, I believe, mixed now to overwhelmingly positive. So you have completely flipped the script on this game itself. What does that feel like? Yeah. What does that feel like in that moment to see all of that kind of fully come to fruition?
I mean, it's mission accomplished, right? Like we want to. It looked like Mission Impossible. It's now mission accomplished, right? Like, people, I think, doubted that we could do this, that we should do this. Why would we do this? Why would we build on a quote unquote dead game, as people might look at it, right, in the industry, and say that ship sailed, that's done. And even amongst ourselves, right, it was a discussion. But now we just feel great. Now we feel validated. Now we feel vindicated. Now we feel like we asked questions of our community. They responded. We took action, and they responded again, right? But by voting with their time. It's not even about voting with your wallets. It's about voting with your time. Like, if you're going to give time to our game and our product, that means the world to us, right? That you have fun with that experience. And it allows us to learn more. It allows us to get better. It allows us to share our wicked, dark fantasies with you in our crazy umbral worlds. And yeah, it really does mean the world to us. So we'd all just like to thank the community for showing the support and, doubling down and going on this journey with us.
Awesome. That concludes my questions. We just got a few more community questions. One of
Sure.
the more common ones was, will there be a Lords of the Fallen 3? I know it's a really fast action question because you guys just released 2.0, but people are wondering, will there be a follow-up? Will there be a sequel to all of this?
It's a funny question because they've said 3, right? Whereas we're seeing the 2023 game as kind of like the hard. So it would be a sequel to that game. I don't think it'd be the threequel. We'd hope to do a third right after the next. We are hard at work on the sequel to the previous or current game. Yes, that is quietly known, right? We've kind of made that statement. So yes, there'll be plenty more to come on that soon.
One particular person was wondering, were any of the bosses inspired by Dark Souls or any other Souls games in particular? Like, was there a boss that had impressed you guys from a different game?
I think all of FromSoft's bosses are incredible, right? From a design perspective and an artistic perspective. We'd all acknowledge that. I don't believe there are any that were directly inspired by, but I think you can't deny that the DNA of Souls-like boss design is there for all of us to see. One thing I will say is that bosses are an area of focus for us with the next game, and we're fully intending to get better at that as well, right? We think we did a pretty good job with the last game. We're going to try and do a great job with this one.
Do you think there will be any sort of community feedback when it comes to that next game with its bosses? Are you guys going to pull any questions for people to answer for those?
It's a great point, and if we weren't, then we will now that you've said it.
That'd be cool, even just for one boss in
absolutely.
particular. That'd be a cool.
Yeah, and I mean, look, hopefully we proved it with Lords 2.0 in the past 18 months, right? We really want to just be transparent and have like a no bullshit attitude to just ask in the community, what do you think, what do you want, how do you feel? And I think bringing a community in on those experiences early is always great. So if we can find a way to kind of test things out with them, absolutely, we'd explore that.
How long will support remain for this 2.0?
I mean, 2.0 for us is the definitive version of Lords 2023 now. Whether and how much more work we put into this, I mean, there's already feedback flooding in, right, on extra little quality of life improvements for 2.0. I'm sure the team is going to make adjustments. I don't think we're going to see anything as monumental as 2.0 right now, because all eyes are now on the next game, really. But what I would say to that is 2.0 is allowing us to take all the learnings now into the next game. So all the things we've done in 2.0, we're really going to be thinking hard about, including improving and elevating in the next game. So it's kind of like we're spinning two plates, really. We've got to kind of focus on the next one soon.
Gotcha. Last one for you, just a generic question, because Souls and their progress is a big thing. So people are curious how progression works in this game in particular.
We've got all Souls games have various kind of types of progression, right? So there's the kind of what you might call the meta progression, which is kind of leveling up your character. Maybe folded into that as the stats progression, right? So you've got your starting class and then your specialization as you go. And then there's what I would also call the world progression. So for me, in Souls likes the world itself, especially in FromSoft games, is almost a character of its own, which you're progressing and unlocking, right? So the way we like to think about it as well is, you're unlocking the map and you're progressing the map all the time. When you reach those vestige points where you upgrade your character, that's actually kind of upgrading and unlocking the map, right? You're unpacking this big character. So I think it's a multiple layered cake, Jacob. I'd say progression in our game isn't just one binary thing. There's so much to think about. You've also got the narrative, right? And then the art style, and just all this different stuff.
That was awesome. That was awesome, dude. That was way longer than I intended to keep you, but your answers were so freaking good. That was awesome, dude.
I appreciate it, man. I had a great time talking to you. If there's anything else you want to talk about now,
I would love a clip of that Soulfly. I want to see that and post that immediately. So if you guys have
Soulfly,
I want to see that. But like, if you guys have like a 1080 or 4K, I can ask Brandon too.